YouTube. This is Rogue Saber, and I'm on Korea, and I'm about to attempt to do something I haven't actually tried in a long time. I'm going to try and fly the MiG-3 the way it was designed to be flown. A lot of you guys are going, what? What do you mean? Well, the MiG-3 is not what most people think. I mean, Mikoyan-Gurevich, which is the design team behind the MiG-3 and all MiGs, that's where the MiG acronym comes from, MI for Mikoyan, Gurevich is the G. In 1940 designed the MiG-3, which was the sequel to an earlier design, the MiG-1. One thing most people don't understand about the MiG-3 is that it was optimized for high altitude. At its prescribed operating height, MiG-3 can even outrun a Bf-109. Anyone want to guess what the actual designed operating height for the maximum speed of a MiG-3 is? No? No guesses? No one's even going to try? Of course not, because it's YouTube. You can't. MiG-3 is at its fastest at 7,800 meters. That's right. 20,000 feet plus. It is a high-altitude interception aircraft, which means you've got to fly it at high altitude. The problem is, it may be a high-altitude bomber interceptor design, but it's not that well armed. MiG-3 has, as standard, 2 machine guns, only one of which is a heavy machine gun. Sure, one of them is the Shikast green laser cannon that everyone's familiar with from the low-tier Russians. But one of them is the BK 12.7. And it really doesn't have much ammo. In order to get to operating height before you get to the target area, you're actually going to have to do something no one will ever do. You have to climb slowly. In order to climb slowly to get up to your operating height, you're going to have to linger around the base first. Because this is a long climb. And you can't climb very high, very fast. Remember, I have to get up to several thousand meters, at least 3,000 meters. I would say, because the engine really doesn't, the output doesn't really start doing that great until you hit around 4,000. As you might have noticed from my last Hellcat video, everyone that I've flown a Hellcat against, not a Hellcat, every time I've seen a MiG-3 in combat, it has been at low altitude. I'm not going to be. Now this is a large match. It's a low-tier match, mostly. We've got a Lag 3, 2 MiG-3s, and the rest is I-16s, there's some I-15s. So yeah. I'm going to keep climbing. I made a couple mistakes in the last video in that, for one thing, I misspoke, and for some reason I might have said that the lower battle rating, the better. In truth, there is no better aircraft in War Thunder, since everyone is all the aircraft are designed to their historical specs. As a result, lower battle rating aircraft. What I meant to say is that because of the way the vast majority of the player base flies, it's the lower. The aircraft that will get lowered in battle ranking are aircraft that are boom and zoom aircraft, because the majority of the player base can't fly boom and zoom. They just don't know how. by the same token, a lot of the aircraft that normally would operate at high altitude will also be lowered, because usually in realistic battles you never get to true operating altitude for aircraft. Everything's much lower than a lot of the designs were made for, except for the Russians. I'm still climbing slowly. I'm at 3,000, so I'm getting close to my prescribed operating altitude. The Americans I'm facing have more powerful engines generally than the engine in this thing, unfortunately. As a result, they are able to climb to altitude faster than I am, and I'm still climbing. I should probably do another figure 8 maneuver to increase the altitude some more. This is a rather boring way to fly. I guess that's why a lot of people don't do it right. You have to increase your altitude until you're in optimal performance envelope for your aircraft. The strange thing is, on the Eastern Front, you have this as a result of this, I used to fly IL-2 1946 a lot. One of the things you could do with that is there was a third-party campaign generator that allowed you to do a lot of stuff to influence the way the aircraft the generator would assign aircraft flight profiles. And when you assign historical operating altitudes for aircraft, you have this very strange way the Eastern Front tended to work. In 1941, vast majority of Russian aircraft are low-altitude aircraft. So you're going to see I-16s and so forth operating at under 3,000 meters or so. At 6,000 meters or so, you see most of your 109s. At 4,500 meters, you'll see most of the German bombers cruising altitude. Then way up at around 7,000 or 8,000 meters, you have the MiG-3s. And so what a lot of times happened in IL-2 is when you have this historical style campaign situation is the MiG-3s will jump. Will get the jump on most everything because they're so high up. But if they ever allow themselves to get pulled into a turning fight, they lost. Well, the same thing holds true here. Okay. Now, while I was getting up to proper operating altitude for this aircraft, everyone went down low. So this is going to be very difficult. Okay. There's an F-2A that's closer to my operating height, and he's maneuvering. Dogfight with 9153. There's a Buffalo there. I'm not going to get him in this pass. So you start booming and zooming at high altitude, and you do a lot of high speed, maximizing your engine output at high altitude. Over the airfields, there's a lot of AAA now. Make a turn. Choose a target. We have a Rooster Buffalo at 5 kilometers. That's a pretty severe down angle. I really need to get a HOTAS joystick for this. I really love my force feedback joystick, but HOTAS would be much more suitable for this. Oh, and he's turning into me. He started a slow turn. He knows what a MiG-3 is like. He doesn't need to go into really aggressive maneuvers. All he has to do is start a slow turn into me. Well, I'm gonna yo-yo. Turn back towards the engagement. We have Rooster Buffalo heading downward. I'm going to ignore him for now and focus on these guys. Buffalo baby coming up behind me now. I don't see him. I must fight. Yeah. This is why the MiG-3 is not low out. It's not a good plane for low altitude operations. It just does. It flies like a pig. And you know what? I'm probably not going to get any kills because everyone's lawn mowing. It makes it very hard to fly a MiG-3 properly when everyone else is doing it wrong. Suppose if we win this, I should take it out again and do it the way everyone else does and show how you get completely killed. I almost wonder if one of the ways that Gaijin could possibly get around this is to spawn aircraft at cruising altitudes for realistic battles, but that could be very problematic. And while my high altitude performance is really, really good, even at these medium altitudes, the engine and airframe just is not up to high speed operations. You have to be really high to get the high speed performance out of this aircraft. I wonder if that would be a possible way to counter the problems with this plane, is to spawn planes at their cruising altitudes. Because if this thing spawned at 7,000 or 8,000 meters, and 109 spawned at 6,000, it wouldn't be nearly as... The time to altitude for this plane is absolutely horrendous for a plane that's designed for high altitude. And it's one of the reasons that, as the Mighty Jingles has put it, 1941, Russia was producing dog shit! Well, this is dog shit. I may say there are no bad aircraft, but this truly is a bad aircraft. Especially for an online game. It would be better if we didn't have to do the horrendous climb to altitude that we've got in realistic battles, but I do not see Gaijin giving up on takeoff spawnings. At least not anytime soon. Gosh, I'm not going to even engage anybody. This sucks. Flying the MiG-3, everybody. Guess what? It sucks. Well, there's one thing I can do. I'm sure a lot of people are going, huh? What's he doing? He's turning away. Well, I'm going to start a wide turning circle. Basically, I'm going to start a circle pattern over the enemy air base at high altitude, and try and get that higher altitude performance back by getting up to higher altitude. That F2 is almost certainly out of ammunition in his landing. I don't see him anymore, but he's almost certainly landing or attempting to land. If you look at my ammunition total, I have not fired a single round yet. It seems that the cooling system on this plane is also optimized for higher altitude, because I'm overheating fairly easily. The water was reaching high enough temperature to start to be concerned about it. He's not landing. He turned towards me.
The enemy will win.
Yeah, he's on attack run. That's a bad idea. That's a really bad idea. Put it in a shallow dive and head back towards base. it's unfortunate, but one of the things that the Russians did later on was they re-engined these with the AM-38 engine, which is the same engine they put on the Illusion IL-2 Stormovik, and that's actually a low altitude engine. And with that engine configuration, this plane actually did quite well at low altitude. We don't have that version in the game. We have the Series 15, which is got the high altitude engine, and we've got the Series 15 also with the BK gun pods, which is not the version I'm using. I'm using the basic version. I don't think I have any upgrades on this. I'd have to check. But it's the basic version of the MiG-3. I'm still close to overheat temperature with the water. It's an air-cooled engine. I'm gonna look it up. One of the benefits of having an iPad, so you can check things while you're doing something else. I'm not sure, but I think I may be on the Russian server, which would be hilarious. I usually fly with the server set to any available, so I could be on the Russian server. F2A Booster Buffalo decided to land. I don't see it. Still up, isn't he? Kordax with 4 kills in the F2A. Wait, there's 2 players still up. I only have seen one of them. I'm now at 4,000 meters and climbing. We're getting pretty close to the normal operating height of this aircraft, finally. After God knows how long. Water heat level is starting to drop. One thing is there's a lot of aircraft that are actually optimized for high altitude performance, and the radiators and so forth really don't work that well unless you're at high altitude. Part of that is how much colder the air is up here. Brr. So water temperature's dropped about 5 degrees. It's like past 4,500 meters, which, as I said, is operating altitude for this aircraft. Cruising altitude would normally be around 6,000 to 7,000 meters easily, simply due to the way the aircraft performed. But as I said, the water temperature is continuing to cool. I must be really in the ideal temperature range for the radiator at this point. Still don't see the enemy. Ironically, the aircraft feels more maneuverable at this height. I've got a contact. There's the Brewster Buffalo. I'm sorry, man. You're not going to catch me at this height. I don't care that you're flying a Brewster Buffalo. This is way above your operating altitude, man. He's a mile behind me. and the space is opening. He's probably going, what the hell? How is the MiG outrunning me? What's going on? This is someone actually flying a MiG at its proper altitude. We're at 5,000 meters now. And I don't know what the service ceiling on the F2A is, but it's not the 12,000 meters that this thing's got. So,
if we don't do something fast, the enemy will win.
Yeah. I'm going to start a slow climbing turn. At first glance, sounds like a really boring maneuver, but that's how you fly some of these aircraft when you finally get to high altitude. Because high altitude, your lift out, the amount of lift you get underneath the wings starts dropping. It's because the higher altitude has less air pressure, and since you have less air up here, there's less air beneath your wings, so you can't maneuver as severely. He's gonna get me. I'm gonna punch up the engine power again. What is the service ceiling of the Brewster Buffalo? I have to go higher. They're like, what? Let's see. Two hostiles. Second hostile is flying another Brewster Buffalo. He looks like he's heading for...
The enemy is winning. We've got to counterattack.
Yeah, they're both trying to climb up to get me. And if they keep trying that, they're going to... Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. That's a MiG-3. How is he doing that? Wow. Suffers compressibility really badly. Didn't know that. Compressibility is the way when you hit high speeds, your aircraft controls get heavy due to the way the air is moving over the wings. That one is now engaged. Cordax is with a choice. He can either go support his friend or go after me. It seems like he's going to support his friend. I'm going to slow down. Try and get behind him. He sees me coming. Maybe. Got some hits on his friend. God, this plane is a pig. You know, I think the flight model is actually worse than the real plane, because I don't remember it being this bad in IL-2. Nowhere nearly this bad. Okay. I guess what I'm going to end up doing is supporting the guy in the I-153 as much as I can. Don't expect to do much good though. Without the BK cannon, BK pods, you simply just don't have the firepower. There's one. The other one is above me. You know, this is probably one of the better cases of teamwork I've seen in realistic battles. Whoa! God. I can't outmaneuver a rooster buffalo. It's not happening. It's just not gonna happen. Before I die. Oh. Not gonna happen. Speed's too high. Got compressibility issues. I'm shot to shit. Got a fuel leak in 5 minutes of fuel. I think I'm gonna end up going down. Yeah, at this point I'm dead. There's nothing I can do. He overshot. He's pulling away. God. He's a mile behind me now. I've got a ridiculously short fuel leak. You got him! Well done, man. I just need to nurse this plane back home. As bad as this plane is in the maneuverability department, it's even worse if you select the BK version, because that has a set of pods that are hung underneath the wings that contain the BK 12.7 machine guns. So you have a lot more weaponry, but it's extremely difficult to get your guns on target. And the maneuverability isn't that good in part because of what this plane was designed to do. It was designed to hunt bombers. It doesn't really have the firepower to do that very well, unfortunately. So this Mikoyan-Gurevich, this is your worst idea. You're supposed to make a good Russian strong plane. This is not it. Go back to the damn drawing board. It's terrible. Oh, should I rack up a couple of ground kill points? Well, only if they are in front of me.
The enemy is winning. We've got to counterattack.
Honestly, 3 minutes of fuel. I may not be able to get back to base before the engine runs out of fuel. Which would be 2 minutes of fuel. No attack for me. Must run the back to base. God, this is horrific. Mikoyan, you can do better than this. And yeah, they can do better than this. It's just that they don't get Mikoyan-Gurevich don't make decent planes until the Jet Age. Any Americans, it's like, oh, a MiG! I want to fly a MiG! No, you don't. Honestly, you don't. The Lag 3 is better than this plane. In so many respects. Armament, maneuverability. The one thing that the Lag 3 is worse at than this is speed. And the only thing this plane can do really well is high altitude speed runs. Thing is, there's no way to do it in realistic battles. Nothing flies that high. Ever. As you can see from this matchup, I got up to operating altitude after freaking most of the match was almost over. I managed to get one hit. I don't think I'm gonna make it. I have to get across the mountains in 50 seconds. Not happening. Just not happening. God, I hate the F-2A Booster Buffalo. The plane is so... Okay. I hate fighting the F-2A Brewster Buffalo and low-tier Russians, because that is actually one of the planes that is like your arch enemy. In the hands of the Finns, that thing was responsible for... Yeah, it basically had the best kill-death ratio of any aircraft in the Second World War in Finnish hands. In American hands, it did really badly against the Japanese. Oh, God. There's the air base. 3, 2, 1. No fuel. I don't think... No, flight performance on this plane is not going to be good enough. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it, and the turning circle for this plane is too wide for me to possibly abort. I'm going to go in. So there you have it. Is the MiG-3 awful? Yeah, it is. Historically, I think that the performance is... I think the flight model must be incomplete or something, because historically the maneuverability performance was better than that. I'm not going to say it was good, but it was better than that. Now... Despite that, I actually have one of the higher scores. I'm above the average of my team. Basically, all you have to do to get above the average in your team is to actually score some hits, apparently. Especially at these low tiers. But, damn. It's a high-altitude interceptor that takes forever to get up to high altitude. It's a bomber killer that has a 50 caliber machine gun and a 30 caliber machine gun. It's a fighter with a turning radius the size of a small country. It's awful. And I can understand why Gaijin is thinking about down-tiering it, but I'm actually going to say this. Gaijin, if you down-tier it, it's just going to get worse. Because the plane does not have the maneuverability to get onto a small, highly agile target. It doesn't have enough maneuverability to even come close to engaging what it's really facing here, which is low tier, low wing loading, high maneuverability aircraft at its current battle rate. If you lower it, it gets even worse. The only way I can see Gaijin coming close to balancing some of this stuff would be to make it so that you get a really big research bonus or for doing well with a crap plane. The battle rating system that they're using now and trying to adjust it based on pilot performance, I just don't see it working out. So there you have it. how do you fly the MiG-3? Well, right now my suggestion is don't. If you want to fly it properly, like it was used historically, you can, but you're not going to do that well. Until we get the AM-38 model of the MiG-3, which is something that isn't even on the release tree, there's no sign that we'll ever get it. It's going to be completely impossible to do very well with the MiG-3 airframe. The basic MiG-3 that we've got right now, as well as the BK model, for one thing, while the historical role of a high-altitude interceptor existed in the real world, it doesn't exist in War Thunder, simply because aircraft don't fly at their historical cruising altitudes. As a result, at least in realistic battles, you can't really fly the MiG-3. I think it would fare even worse in arcade battles because, well, arcade battles, it's almost always turn fighters that do best, and MiG-3 isn't a turn fighter. My force feedback joystick is jumping around like it's hopped up on crack. It seems to happen after I get shot down. Anyway, the only way I could possibly see the MiG-3 working is possibly in single-player missions or dynamic campaign type modes, or guys should introduce historical cruising speed spawns, because cruising altitude spawns, because it takes far too long for the plane to get to its operating altitude for you to possibly actually engage targets at that altitude. Because by the time you've gotten there, everyone's engaged, and everyone's on the deck, and everyone's chasing ground targets. And moreover, at its current tier, it doesn't face anything that it can really fight well against. The F-2A Brewster Buffalo eats this thing alive. The F-2A actually has enough speed that it can almost catch it even at high altitude. At mid-altitude, it can catch it, which is what happened to me. They need to take a serious look at the maneuverability, because I have trouble believing it was that bad. So, I'm going to leave it here while I wait for this match to end, and we'll come back and see how I did, if we won or lost this match, because it's come down to a 1v1 between this guy and the remaining Rooster Buffalo. And that guy's got 4 kills, so I bet we'll probably lose. So, well, surprisingly enough, we won the match. In a very bizarre fashion, because apparently, the ground AI managed to destroy all the enemy ground targets before the last 2 guys fought it out. This being the first match of the day, I actually made enough to get a couple upgrades for the MiG-3. Anyway, I did notice something else. It doesn't show it on this, but this guy also flew a MiG-3. Apparently there must be some secret way to fly a MiG-3, because that guy did a lot better than I did. I don't know. Maybe there's some super secret, some secret Russian fashion to flying the Mikoyan-Gurevich 3, eh? Yeah, it doesn't have any data on that. So, I don't know. I did a little checking while I was waiting, and the, surprisingly enough, the MiG-3 has 150 more horsepower than the F-2A Brewster Buffalo. But then again, I think it all comes back to the fact that this thing is optimized for really high altitude. It's meant to engage bombers at high altitude. The ironic bit being it doesn't have the armament to engage bombers. It's just crap. Even with the BK armament, I'd still say it's probably crap. I mean, yes, it's a great improvement going from a single 50 caliber to 3. Still doesn't mean the plane's not junk. The ironic thing being is that there were versions of the MiG-3 that did much better, but they never went into large-scale production. There were field upgrades where they stripped out the MGs and replaced them with Shivak cannons and stuff like that, which would turn this plane into something that was actually viable. I still think that the flight model it turns. Its performance is so bad, I have trouble believing it's actually accurate. It's so bad. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, people talk about Lag 3s as sucking balls and so forth. They don't compare to this. This is probably the single worst plane in War Thunder at the moment. Just straight up for air-to-air combat. Which is even more ironic is it's designed for air-to-air combat. This is Mikoyan-Gurevich at their absolute worst. Thankfully, the next time we see that design team on the research board, it'll be a hell of a lot later. Yeah. It'll be 1947. This has been Rogue Saber's Ransom Reviews, signing out.